Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're taking a plunge into something that often feels, well, a bit abstract, yet it fundamentally shapes every single organization. I'm talking about organizational culture. It's definitely more than just, values stuck on a wall somewhere. It's like the invisible architecture determining how things actually get done.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Invisible architecture.
Our mission today is to really unpack the true essence of culture, understand how it forms, and maybe most importantly, explore a practical, structured way to intentionally evolve it.
Yeah, and the source material we've been digging into gives a surprisingly clear roadmap for this. Some really interesting insights in there.
Okay, so let's kick things off. When we strip away the jargon, what exactly are we talking about when we say organizational culture? It feels like a term everyone throws around, but pinning it down?
It can be tricky, but yeah, getting clear on the definition is definitely step one. Our source points to two key perspectives. First, Edgar Schein, who's, a real pioneer here.
Right.
He defines it as the set of shared beliefs that defines the vision the company has of itself and its environment, and also as a pattern of basic assumptions that a group learned.
Learned how?
Learned as it solved its problems, both adapting externally and integrating internally. Basically, the stuff that worked over time becomes the assumed way.
Okay, the learned way.
Then you've got Carolyn Taylor, who gives it a more maybe behavioral lens. She says it's the patterns of behavior that are encouraged, discouraged, or tolerated by people and systems over time.
Ah, like that. Encouraged, discouraged, or tolerated. That feels very real world.
Exactly what actually happens, what's allowed.
So it's not just the official rules, it's what people do, what they believe deep down. The source really stresses that culture is a mindset, right? A whole complex system.
Absolutely, a system with loads of variables. And it's personal, too. Change happens one person at a time, even within that collective.
So how is this invisible architecture actually built, if it's not just memos and mission statements?
Well, the source brings in the walking the talk model here. It argues culture is created mostly through nonverbal messages. What people pick up on about what's really valued.
Nonverbal messages, like what?
Three main sources. First, behaviors. Not just what leaders say, but how they act.
Right.
In meetings, how they reply to emails, how people interact internally, how feedback lands. What do you actually see happening around you?
Right. Actions speak louder.
Definitely. Second, symbols. These are the more tangible clues.
Such as?
Think about the budget. Where does the money really go? Who gets promoted? Who leaves? Even office layouts, job titles, benefits packages. These aren't just details, they're powerful signals.
Okay. Symbols. What's the third?
Systems. These are the formal structures and processes.
Like HR policies.
Exactly. Planning, budgeting, performance reviews, recognition systems, how you measure and report things, the org chart itself. These three behavior symbol systems are constantly sending messages.
That makes a lot of sense. They're shaping the experience constantly.
Precisely.
So here's the big question then. If culture is so deeply rooted in these experiences, these constant messages, how on earth does real change happen? You can't just flick a switch, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Forget just sending a memo. The source offers this model. Change the culture, change the game. It's quite powerful.
Okay.
It says the results you get come from the actions people take.
Right.
Those actions come from their existing beliefs.
Okay, actions from beliefs.
And crucially, those beliefs are formed by people's lived experiences.
Experiences create beliefs, which drive actions, which produce results.
You got it. So if you want to change the culture to change the results, you have to go back to the beginning. You must intentionally change the experiences people are having.
Intentionally change experiences.
Yes. New experiences lead to new beliefs. New beliefs drive new actions or behaviors. And those new behaviors ultimately generate the new results you're aiming for.
So the real work isn't just talking about new behaviors, it's designing the experiences that will naturally lead to them.
That's the crux of it. Identify the experiences reinforcing the culture you don't want, and then actively design new ones that build the culture you do want.
Wow, okay. So culture isn't just soft stuff then.
Yep.
It's actually a strategic engine. It gives coherence to the whole system.
Exactly. It's a strategic vehicle.
Which implies you can approach it structurally. Is there a roadmap for this kind of evolution?
There is. The source lays out what it calls an integral vision of organizations. Think of it as a framework showing how all the pieces connect.
Integral vision. What does that include?
It starts with the fundamentals, your mission, your strategy. Then it connects out to innovation, customer experience, or quality, speed of launch.
Okay, the business outcomes.
Right. But then it directly links those to your leadership models, the desired behaviors, the underlying beliefs and values.
Ah, connecting strategy to behavior.
Precisely. And all that is grounded in your operational reality. Your management model, process model, the systems and tools you use, including your KPIs. It's a truly holistic picture.
That's super helpful for seeing the whole ecosystem. So the transformation process itself, the source breaks it down.
Yeah, into 4 clear phases, which makes it feel much more manageable.
Where are they?
First, create the future. That's all about leadership alignment on a shared vision.
Okay, define the destination.
Second, understand today. Getting brutally honest about the current culture.
Know your starting point.
Third, analyze the gaps. What's the difference between today and the desired future?
Find the bridges needed.
And fourth, plan and execute. Actually implementing synchronized actions to make the change stick.
Create the future, understand today, analyze gaps, plan and execute. Okay, let's dig into phase 1, creating the future.
Right. This phase is critical. It's about getting senior leaders genuinely aligned, not just nodding along, but aligned around a unique, simple, clear narrative. Yeah, a story, a powerful story that connects the strategy and the desired culture to a really compelling vision of the future. It's about collaboratively defining where you're truly headed and what kind of culture is non-negotiable to get there.
So, beyond just the story itself, what are the concrete pieces an organization needs to define here?
Well,
The building blocks of that future vision.
the source lists 6 key elements. You start with purpose and principles. Why do we exist? And what are our ground rules?
Foundational stuff.
Then the vision. Where do we want to be in, say, 5 or 10 years? Then goals and checkpoints. How will we know we've arrived? Measurable milestones.
Okay, purpose, vision, goals.
Fourth is strategy. How will we actually get there? The plan. Fifth is culture. What are the basic guidelines for how we should behave, defining those key behaviors?
Right.
And finally, number 6, which ties it all together, the story. What's the narrative we're going to tell ourselves and others?
A story that feels much more human than just strategy points.
Yeah.
What makes a good cultural story, according to the source? It can't just be any old tale.
No, definitely not. A good cultural story needs to do several things. It has to mobilize people, make them want to be part of it.
Engage them emotionally.
Exactly. It needs to summarize the core idea concisely. Get straight to the point. Clarity is key. It has to make sense within the bigger picture, connecting the dots. It needs to be consistent with what the organization genuinely aims to be. And, importantly, it should feel unique to that business.
So it resonates and feels authentic.
Precisely. Think of those powerful origin stories or a really compelling vision of a future state that everyone feels part of.
Okay, so the story wraps it all up. Given how crucial this all is, what's the specific role of leaders in this? Especially in phase 1.
Oh, leaders are absolutely pivotal. Their actions, more than their words, set the tone. They have to consciously decide which behaviors to reinforce.
They need to walk the talk themselves.
Completely. They need to observe, participate, not just manage from afar. And critically, they're responsible for aligning everything else, the structures, the processes, the systems, to actively support those desired behaviors.
So they need to be constantly engaged.
Constantly. Leading the evolution, being the example, the source is clear. Leaders are responsible for others, so they have to act intentionally, consistently. It's a huge responsibility.
Okay, that's create the future. Now let's move to phase 2. Understand the today. How do organizations get that really honest, clear picture of their current culture? You need to know where you are before you can plot a course.
Exactly right. You can't navigate without knowing your starting point. The source outlines 2 main ways to do this. First, quantitative research.
Surveys and data.
Yeah, typically large-scale questionnaires and significantly using cultural archetypes, which we should definitely talk more about.
Okay, quantitative. What's the other?
Qualitative research. This is more in-depth. Things like focus groups, one-on-one interviews.
So quantitative tells you what, qualitative tells you why.
Broadly, yes. Quantitative often reveals what's happening, how widespread it is. Qualitative digs into the why, the motivations, the beliefs, the feelings behind it. Quantitative gets you maybe the rational view. Qualitative taps into the emotional, spontaneous stuff.
Right, the gut feelings. And you mentioned cultural archetypes. That sounds really interesting, a powerful tool.
Oh, definitely. This is where it gets really insightful, I think. Archetypes are based on Carl Jung's work, and Carol Pearson's often used through a tool called Culture Talk.
Jungian archetypes. like the hero, the sage.
Exactly, those kinds of patterns. They represent these deep, universal structures of human motivation and meaning, recurring patterns you find in stories everywhere.
How do they help with organizational culture?
They help answer fundamental questions like, who are we really underneath it all? What are our unwritten rules? They offer a kind of shortcut to understanding those ingrained, often unconscious behaviors that really drive things.
A shortcut to the unwritten rules. I like that.
Yeah. And the source stresses there are no good or bad archetypes. Each has a strong or light side and a shadow side. They're also fluid, they can shift, and they tend to be very relatable, meaningful, and memorable for people.
Okay, so you're tapping into deeper motivations. Can you give us a couple of examples? How might an archetype show up in a company?
Sure. Let's take the hero. The light side is all about discipline, focus, courage, that can-do spirit, overcoming challenges, always learning.
The go-getters.
Right. But the shadow side, maybe an inability to admit mistakes, denying reality when things go wrong, or getting paralyzed by analysis, afraid to fail.
Ah, the dark side of striving.
Exactly. Or think about the sage, light side, champions, learning, knowledge, research, development. To know is to grow.
The experts, the thinkers.
The shadow might be ivory tower thinking, analysis paralysis again, or being overly critical. Another one is the caregiver, light side. People first, supportive, helpful, make people the priority. Yeah. Shadow side could be martyrdom, enabling dependency, or being conflict avoidant. The source lists others too, the innocent, optimism, simplicity, the revolutionary, breaking rules, innovation, the explorer, seeking adventure, freedom. Each offers a unique lens.
That really does make the unwritten rules feel much more tangible. Okay, so phase 1 is create the future. Phase 2 is understand today using tools like archetypes. What's phase 3? Bridging the gap.
Precisely. Phase 3 is analyze the gaps. This is where you explicitly map out the from-to
From the current culture.
to the desired future culture you defined in phase 1. The core task here is identifying and prioritizing what the source calls cultural levers.
Levers. You mean things you can actually pull to make a change.
Exactly. Specific behaviors, symbols, or systems that, if you intentionally alter them, will have the biggest impact on evolving the culture toward your 2.0 state.
Okay, so what kind of things are these levers?
Well, the big three are behaviors, symbols, systems, as we discussed. But the source also lists others like leadership styles, key processes, how innovation happens, decision-making authority.
Communication channels. Problem-solving approaches.
Yes, all those. Even things like office layout, how recognition works, how errors are treated, the perceived power distance between levels.
Wow, lots of potential levers. How do you choose which ones to focus on? You can't change everything at once.
No, you definitely can't. Prioritization is key. The source suggests evaluating potential levers based on 4 criteria. Impact, how much will changing this move us towards the TO state? Complexity, how hard is it to change? Confidence, how sure are we that we can change it? And effort, how much work will it take?
Impact, complexity, confidence, effort. Okay, that helps focus the energy.
Right. You want the high impact, maybe lower complexity, high confidence levers first, if possible.
Makes sense. So once you've analyzed the gaps, identified and prioritized your levers, then comes phase 4, plan and execute, making it actually happen.
This is where the rubber meets the road. It's about implementing synchronized actions across those key levers, the systems, symbols, and desired behaviors you identified.
Synchronized action, not just random initiatives.
Exactly. The source actually recommends a 2-layered approach here. One layer is like an umbrella for the overall cultural transformation, including any cross-functional initiatives.
The big picture.
And the second layer focuses on the specific implementation strategy for each individual initiative, making sure it clearly links back to that main umbrella vision.
Okay, umbrella and specific initiatives. How do organizations actually do the implementation? What approaches work?
The source mentions a few different, often complementary ways. You can have a top-down approach, driven strongly by leadership, good for setting direction.
Makes sense for certain changes.
Or a bottom-up approach, really engaging people at all levels, building grassroots ownership, great for buy-in. You can also leverage existing projects, look at big initiatives already happening or planned, and consciously frame them as cultural change projects, connecting them to the narrative.
So piggyback on existing momentum.
Right. And another powerful one is using agile pilots. Pick a high-impact challenge or process, put an agile team on it, get an MVP, a minimum viable product out quickly, learn and adapt. Fast cycles.
Agile for culture change. Interesting. Could you give some concrete examples of what these initiatives might look like?
Sure. Things like specific leader development programs focused on modeling the new cultural behaviors or creating cultural ambassador networks throughout the organization.
People who champion the change.
Exactly. Reviewing and redesigning high-impact systems like performance management or planning to make sure they reinforce the desired culture, not undermine it.
Aligning the systems.
Yeah. Maybe setting up small innovation cells to experiment with new ways of working that embody the new culture, or even taking a big standard project like an ERP system implementation and intentionally managing it as a cultural project, focusing on how it changes behaviors and mindsets.
So weaving culture into everything.
That's the idea, making it part of the operational fabric.
It's really clear from this deep dive that understanding organizational culture and being intentional about shaping it isn't just a nice to have. It seems absolutely crucial.
It really is. It's fundamental to unlocking how a company evolves or why it gets stuck. It's the key to making real, lasting change happen.
Not just tinkering around the edges.
Exactly. And this structured approach, create the future, understand today, analyze the gaps, plan and execute it, provides a solid strategic roadmap.
A way to be deliberate about it.
Yes, it empowers organizations to drive effective, sustainable change, which ultimately fuels innovation and keeps the organization healthy and resilient in the long run.
It all really makes you think. Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listeners. Consider the environments you're a part of every day. It could be your workplace, maybe a volunteer group you're in, even your family dynamics. What if you were to intentionally shift just one small, seemingly minor, everyday experience within that context? How might that single, deliberate change subtly start to alter the shared beliefs, the unwritten rules, and ultimately transform the collective outcomes for everyone involved? Something to ponder until our next deep dive.